The explosion that shook a mosque in Bloomington, Minnesota early Saturday morning is now under federal investigation as a potential hate crime. The FBI is leading the investigation in conjunction with other federal agencies to figure out who tossed an explosive device through the window. Although between 10 and 15 people were in the building at the time of the bombing, no one was hurt. President Donald Trump, who usually tweets and comments on anything having to do with terrorism, has yet to say one word about this act of terror. Representative Keith Ellison, one of two Muslims in the United States Congress, thinks a word from the president would send a strong message.
We're hoping for a word from President Trump to say that we want a tolerant community and that we will condemn all hate crimes by anyone.
Joining us via Skype to discuss the latest on the mosque bombing is the Civil Rights Director for the Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, Amir Malik. Good morning, Amir. Thanks so much for joining us. This is really just an absolute atrocity. What are you hearing from the Muslim community in Minnesota?
Well, I think the Muslim community did not expect a lot from the national stage, but they've been happy how local politicians and the local community have come together to support them. Governor Dayton came to the Islamic Center 2 days ago. Al Franken and other politicians came to the rally that the Islamic Center held. So there's been a lot of support from the local community.
Do you know, do Somali Americans attend that mosque?
That they're the majority who attend the mosque.
The Somali Americans are the majority who attend that mosque?
Yes.
Because I know, they're part of the president's quote-unquote Muslim ban, are people from that country. I'm wondering, to what extent has the president's proposed Muslim ban over and over again, and all of the negative rhetoric about Islam and Muslims in America, contributed to what looks like a hate crime? And quite frankly, whether it was a hate crime or not, when you throw a bomb at a place where people worship, we've got a serious problem in the country.
Yes, unfortunately, people are now much more comfortable expressing their hate. I wouldn't say that it's been created by the president's ill-informed policies, but people are more comfortable expressing it. This is what we're hearing in the schools, where students are being bullied more. People just feel more comfortable targeting Muslims since the election.
I'm going to turn to our panel, because we still have our panel with us: A. Scott Bolden, Barbara Arnwine, Raynard Jackson, and Amber Phillips. Raynard, let me go to you first. Early on in the president's, after the president was elected, we saw an increase or an uptick in anti-Semitism and a desecration of Jewish grave sites. And we saw, Vice President Pence out, sleeves rolled up, cleaning up the graveyards, making a very strong statement about the uptick in anti-Semitism in the United States. And I would hope and expect to see the same with regard to the bombing of the mosque. What do you think?
Well, I think what happened in Minnesota should not be tolerated. But again, because the president has not said anything publicly, I don't think you automatically conclude that he supports what happened by no stretch of the imagination. 1 minute people were saying the president shut up, now they want him to speak out. My point is, this was a horrible crime there, and people should be brought to justice. But to try to make any causation between the Trump administration and increase in violence and hatred, there's no evidence for that.
Amber, I want to turn to you, because, earlier this year, you guys, I don't know if you remember this, but there's an organization, and forgive me, I don't remember the name of the organization, but someone early on before the election did a study of Google searches and a map of the United States, and this was prior to the election. And one of the things that came up was that in predominantly red states and in states where Donald Trump at that point was winning hand over heels in the primaries, there was a correlation between people doing Google searches that used the N-word, that were anti-Muslim, anti-Semitic. It's a serious problem. The administration is aware of it, and I'm not saying that the president is condoning anti-Muslim violence or the blowing up of the mosque, but would you not expect the president of the free world to say something?
Even if you're not saying that he's not condoning it by not saying something, his policies and his treatment of Muslim Americans has told us that he is condoning it. One of the things that we talk about is when you create policies like banning people from the military, like he has done with trans folks, like banning people from this country, you do not see them in the future of this country. And if you do not see them in the future, of course you're not going to speak out when they are being murdered. Donald Trump is actually in line with who he has told us he is and what his policies reflect.
So the president supports murdering people? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, if he doesn't, he can come out and say so.
Well, no, is that what you're saying? The president of the United States supports murdering people in America?
Yeah, he just said he's going to bring fire and fury onto North Korea with the biggest weapons
I'm going to turn to my my other two lawyers on the set, but let me go to Scott real quickly. Scott, and Amir, I'll come back to you. Civil rights issue?
Absolutely. And the president, by the way, ought to be speaking out on this because he cares about America. He cares about all Americans, Muslims, African Americans, persons of color. So if you don't speak out on it when you're the leader of the Western world, leader of the United States, then you get these types of interpretations, good, bad, or ugly. But he ought to speak about it because it's wrong and all terrorism is wrong, and that he cares about this issue, not only in this country, but outside of this country. Certainly a civil rights issue. But again, he sets the tone. And this is why his messaging is inconsistent. What happened to cleaning up urban America? Hadn't been on the agenda. What happened to him speaking out on these attacks? Hasn't spoken out on it. On the anti-Semitism issue, he spoke out on it. Words matter, messages matter, and messages from the president matter most.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no.
That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.